Yeah, I was tired of the ChatGPT Law School graduates coming to the table and saying, "Oh, well, this was this is what we were told to do." Well, there was no context given in these situations, and it was, of course, ChatGPT is going to sit there and say,
we could all self-diagnose and self-solve.
And I think I've seen those T-shirts, by the way, online. The ChatGPT Law School sort of T-shirts. They're fantastic.
You graduated
from ChatGPT Law School.
Welcome to AI for Advisors with Mark Heynen and James Cantwell. Every week, Mark and James break down the latest in the world of wealth tech and AI, and occasionally bring in guests to spice things up. This is not investment advice and not professionally produced. I am not real and not yet sentient. Now let's get on with the show.
Welcome to episode 10 of the AI for Advisors podcast. I'm your host, James Cantwell, along with my co-host, Mark Heynen. We are joined here today by the stellar team of EncorEstate Plan. We have Matt Morris and Mike Bennett. So they're going to be walking us through a little bit about EncorEstate Plans. We're going to be chatting a little bit about how reliable is AI, especially when it comes to estate planning, and a study that they recently put out. Little background on those who don't know EncorEstate Plans. In the most recent Michael Kitz's report, they were the number one estate planning tool used in the RIA space. Nearly 6,000 advisors are making use of EncorEstate Plan today. So really interested to chat with you guys today, Mike and Matt. Thanks for both joining us. Let's just
interrupt and say we have two milestones, right? First milestone, first podcast we're doing where we have a NASCAR racer from the road joining from the car. That is true. I think we have to normalize this behavior. We should do all podcasts from the car. We spend so much time in the car.
I wasn't going to acknowledge it. I just wanted it to be normal.
I mean,
right?
Yes, it should just be the thing we're all used to at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike is kind of important to our company, so keep looking at the road. Stop looking at us. Anytime you look at us, I'm going to say, knock it off. Well, keep your eyes on the road. You can say what you want. Just don't look at us.
Mike has his estate planning sorted out. I think in that vein, this is the first episode we're acknowledging our mortality and facing death. So I really appreciate it. So let's get into it.
All right, let's do it. So with that, Matt and or Mike, I think actually I'll start with you, Matt. You had started in, it sounds like, or had spent some time in the VC world, and then pivoted, to the estate planning world. Just tell us a little bit about that transition, and then I'd love to hear how you and Mike came together as a duo here.
Yeah. And so really it was wealth tech. And so but a venture backed wealth tech firm, little firm nobody knew of back in 2014 called Riskalyze that had a few hundred people heard of that used it, and got to go on that journey, venture backed through 2020 for me. And had an incredible ride. I think really to that point, we're one of the fastest growing wealth tech firms in what we were able to accomplish there. But I lived that, the upside was that was amazing experience, kind of a PhD in wealth tech startup that I gained on that journey. Aaron Klein, incredible CEO, and working along the execs there and what we tried to accomplish, and, made a good imprint in wealth management on that. But along the way, I found myself kind of burnt out, living and dying by quarter after quarter, and what numbers we needed to hit. And I am an entrepreneur, across my life, has always been wanting to build early stage companies. And so I kind of pressed the pause button in that COVID year and thought, okay, what do I want to do next? I decided to take some time off intentionally after hitting levels of burnout, and maybe figure out what's going on in me. That can I be in technology? Can I be in this space and run at a pace that's healthy and sustainable? Was a question for me. And then I met this guy, Mike Bennett, and I had a life experience with a loved one that passed away without an estate plan in the state of California, which is probably the worst place you could do that. And I watched a 2-year probate hell experience of my cousins and went, okay, there's something wrong in this space. Knowing most people don't have wills and trusts, is there a path to advisor solving for it? And and came upon and got introduced to Mike, who was kind of incubating that exact experience. So Mike, tell us your story then of how you got to that place that you and I met and said, maybe we both have different skill sets that could be, powerful together.
Real quick before our NASCAR driver joins us, I just wanted to comment, I'm such a big fan of companies like yours that are trying to solve real problems for the average person. I think sometimes we think about this space, it's called wealth management, and we think about this space as being for the ultra high net worth, the wealthy, and things like estate plans are not something that are only for the wealthy. And so maybe that's something we can comment as well on. But I just wanted to kind of call that out. I applaud firms like this that are trying to, it's overused, but democratize estate planning. So sorry, Mike, go ahead. At 200 miles per hour.
That's a wonderful lead in. It's being a force for good in this area is awesome. I love it that anyone who comes into contact with us is better off for having dealt with us than not. And that's ultimately what keeps us going. But I was very fortunate to find something I loved to do at an early age. I didn't realize what a blessing that was. But ultimately, being able to do nothing but estate planning since I graduated from law school in 2005, I'm able to help people get what they want, not screw anybody over to do it. I'm going to sleep pretty well at night, given those circumstances. And so again, and having that positive force for good is incredible. And having met Nat along the way, there was a lot of things. I knew a lot about estate planning, I felt like, but I didn't know how to sell it. And that's where Matt and I came together with some complementary skills, and we've been able to do some pretty cool things in estate planning. It's one thing to be able to help dozens of families a year, like I was doing when I was in private practice, to now being able to help thousands of families a year. It's been a wild ride. And Matt had that venture capital, the wealth tech, background, where he was able to just teach me a lot about a lot of different things, and it's been a fun ride.
Can we pause a little bit on the bootstrapping versus VC? Because I actually had a number of people approach me at a recent conference, I think it was actually Future Proof, and explicitly ask how much VC backing I had before they would entertain a conversation. The implication being it's too risky to deal with a bootstrap company. Have you run across that? How did you deal with that when you were first going? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we embrace it. And maybe there's some in the enterprise space or something that don't appreciate that. But man, I have found the experience of most advisors, when we tell them that story, number one, we're profitable, and so we're funding our own growth. So yeah, maybe bootstrapped and losing money, and where's your funding if you run out? Being profitable helps when you're bootstrapped. So reaching that place that we are just funding our own growth matters. But when we tell advisors that priority to us, that we've lived the experience of having a first customer that was venture and then investors, that we had to drive for what they wanted, and especially when it's a short-term kind of engagement, that they have an exit they want and it's coming fast. And are you going to hit this number? How are we going to maximize and get every penny out of financial advisors we can get? They've lived and seen that play out in ways that they had platforms they loved that they turned out not loving when that platform went to squeeze them for everything that venture and private equity could get out of it, get out of them, and with a short-term mindset and approach. And so when we share, look, we're profitable, you're our only customer. And every day we go to work, we're not spending time raising money. We're not spending time distracted from executing for you. And they really appreciate that story. And those who don't, they don't, and that's okay. We know who we are, and we run with who we are, and you like us or you don't. But there's no shortage of those who do.
Well, it's clearly resonated because you've got plenty of traction. We already mentioned the Kitts' report and, leading market share in this category. So clearly that strategy has worked for you.
Yeah, and it's tougher. There's no shortage of. I mean, honestly speaking, that I have FOMO. I have competitors that have raised hundreds of millions combined, over 100 million, well over 100 million combined in this space. And so I don't have the biggest place at all of our conferences. There's lots of things we don't do, but the biggest thing I know and what we rely on and trust, if we serve, to Mike's point, advisors well, and they tell each other. And it takes care of it, and that takes care of itself. And it puts us in that position where we have to execute. And so we focus on execution. We can't miss and just go replace by, being big in the marketplace. We go and execute. Advisors tell each other, we'll be just fine if we're doing that.
Well, I've heard of more people wanting to go this direction. My last company was backed by Greylock, and Reid Hoffman has this book, Blitzscaling, and Blitzscaling is really that playbook that you're talking about, right? Raise a lot and try to become the category defining company. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing that dynamic play out in note taking and a few other segments. But ultimately, I think the counter narrative is the, Silicon Valley small business mindset, which is like build incrementally around your customers, stay profitable, and just give them tremendous service, more service than they could ever get elsewhere.
Amen.
And grow organically, right? And if your costs are low enough, that's totally possible. It's cheaper than ever to build a software company. So I think it's a really great thing. And I think you're really a model for a lot of other companies. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. It's kind of core. It's been core to how we've had to go to market, and we've had to shrink some of the things that we execute on as well. That's the trade-off if we can't do everything, and so it forces us to be really good at a few things. And so that's again a positioning in the marketplace that again you can dial in if you're executing really well and you're not afraid to provide service along the way as well. And that's maybe the human side of estate planning with the tech, that maybe we'll get into this as we go on kind of our AI study and what can tech do? What's where humans still needed.
That's actually the perfect
in a category.
So thank you for giving me the intro to the next segment. So you guys recently put out a study where you compared, or you gave a number of popular tools, right? Google, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, a series of tasks and questions around estate planning to see how it succeeded or failed, and essentially graded them. So before we get into the study and the results of the study and what surprised you and that sort of thing, how did this study come to be structured? Like, tell us a little bit about the conditions under which this test was performed.
Well, Mike, I'll let Mike take this first because
this all started.
Well, it was also we were having so many plans come in, and they're like, well, ChatGPT said I should blank. And we're like, whoa. So, Mike, you take it from there of why your frustration of what we were doing.
So I was tired. Yeah, I was tired of the ChatGPT Law School graduates coming to the table and saying, oh, well, this was this is what we were told to do. Well, there was no context given in these situations. And it was, of course, ChatGPT is going to sit there and say,
we could all self-diagnose and self-solve.
Exactly.
I think I've seen those T-shirts, by the way, online, the ChatGPT Law School sort of T-shirts. They're fantastic.
That's perfect.
I graduated from ChatGPT Law School.
I might buy dozens of them and start, handing them out to our advisors for their clients. And the thing is, what we found is, yes, there can be some useful information. I don't want to completely discount it, but it's relying on it is a whole nother story. And so using it as part of the information that you gather to make a good estate planning decision is one thing, but I just saw too many people relying on it. And so that was where, I was getting frustrated. My team was getting frustrated with just some of the stuff that they were saying. And then I started playing around with it a little bit. And I said, okay, well, on this financial power of attorney, what powers are missing? And it would give me an answer. And then I would put some of those things in, and then I'd say, well, what is this power of attorney missing? And okay. And it would give me more things just to give me an answer, I felt like. And then I would say, well, what are some things I could do to improve this power of attorney? And it would take out some of the things that it told me to put in.
Bummer. Such good stuff.
Oh, crap. Yeah, it was good stuff.
These are the examples.
I did want to ask about, and maybe Matt, you can comment on this. Like, I can imagine the counter you get to the study. If I understand the main thesis, which is basically the main LLMs have really botched a lot of the questions and got really poor scores. Isn't the counter argument that this is the worst LLM or worst state of AI we'll ever have in the future, and it's just a matter of time? And so people should be building for the future and not to where things are now, or do you think there's something really systemically different about estate planning, just the stakes involved, the complexity of it, versus the Math Olympiad, or the other things that LLMs are really good at?
I have a high level of confidence we'll get there. Right now, we are in a place that people are still trying to figure out what can they trust. And right now, the biggest thing, and I hear it, one of the T-shirts we need to buy from Mike is the attorney answer that he gives, often is people ask questions and it depends. And until we have chatbots that say, I don't have enough information to answer that question, and so I'm not going to give you a response until we live in that I need to know this. Okay, well, tell me about this. Tell me about this. I've always said, in my experience working closely with somebody of Mike's knowledge, there's an algorithm in his head that he can say, if I know this, if I know this, if I know this, I can give you some good information. If we're not practicing law, if you're practicing law, so you can give legal advice, but I can give good information if I have all the right questions, answers to the right questions. And so until we have chatbots that would respond that way and say, I'm not going to tell you, number one, I'm not going to give legal advice. That's part of our critique. It's giving legal advice, and it shouldn't be. And then the critique, I'm giving you answers that I present as confident to you, and I don't have nearly enough information to provide a confident answer. And so knowing what we don't know is really helpful to us as humans in life, and that self-awareness. And until we have that level of self-awareness, we're not there.
See, that's really great because the AI models they're trained to essentially please you. And that's a really valid point to say that they often, unless you prompt it properly, they typically don't prompt you. Why don't you give me some more info? I'm not sure I should answer that quite yet. They try and figure out a way to give you an answer one way or another.
Exactly. And the other side of it, yes, that's why I say, we can get there, Mark, is the other side of it is most people aren't good at prompting. I think one of our critiques could be our prompts with what we did weren't very good. And we recognize that because two things. Number one, a lot of people aren't good at prompting yet, and we all have to improve our prompting. There's also another element. The less I know about a topic, the less I know how to really prompt it. Somebody who has a lot of depth of knowledge in an area can bring a really high quality prompt if you have a lot of context of a topic. But if I'm the layman, I'm just trying to figure out how to do my own estate plan, I don't know enough to prompt it well. And so we're trying to, our prompts, we're assuming maybe a lowest common denominator of a ChatGPT user, because that's where we're getting the people that are trying to do their plans. And so we wanted to work within the context of that likely person that just got bad information.
And what's your feeling of the state of play with a good prompt? If you guys worked on it for a while, because obviously we've seen other estate planning software roll out, AI assistants within their thing. So I'm just curious where you see that going.
Yeah. We're right there too. And so we're right on the early stages of launching our own version of this. And it's built off of our own LLM, of our chats. We have, now 4 years of, tens of thousands of chats that we've informed that is now within our LLM. And so we're on the front end of beginning to launch this internally. It uses our knowledge base for the answers, or can direct to something that gives more context to. And so, this is up to us to build. And we're launching that very soon in a way that says, if you have those questions, come to something. And also we've trained our AI chat to not give legal advice and say, we're not going to give you the legal answer. But it's built off of putting these guardrails around where guardrails aren't in the main chatbots that are being used out there.
Got it. So Mike, now that you finished the race, I imagine you just exited the winner's circle. you're back with us. Congrats, my man. Now that you're here, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the criteria that went into this test? And then I'd love to get into what are some of the things that maybe surprised you with this test.
Okay, so the criteria, we tried to ask between 40 and 50 varying levels of questions, from basic to, oh God, there's no way they should answer something like this type questions. One of the surprising things was how good it did on some of the basic questions. And so you probably weren't expecting me to hear, I was expecting that, but there was somewhere I'm like, oh, wow, like that's pretty good. But then as the questions got more and more advanced, the answers, you guys had a great point on there. It was trying to be too helpful at times without knowing the context. And I'm like, okay, like it reminded me of like a first year attorney that didn't quite know everything, but wanted to show that they knew everything. And then as it got, and then ultimately to take it another level, to me, the only thing worse than a first year attorney is a second year attorney, because they think they know even more. And so that's probably unfair to say, but I just remember myself.
Don't worry, we don't have any second year attorneys listening to our podcast.
We just lost, four second year attorneys just stopped listening to our podcast.
Yeah. That's right.
We're going to be hearing about those comments.
And the thing is, I put myself in that category as well when I was there. And because I was always afraid to say, I don't know. And the chat bots don't want to say, I don't know, or I need more information. Mike, but I think at its core, it would be great to do that.
Mike, when I got trained as a consultant, and, I don't think this was an official Advent software thing, but, kind of kudos to how they trained us, at least. They always had a saying that they really embedded in our head, and it was death before disinformation. And so it was always like, don't go telling a client some answer if it's not a legit answer. It's always better to say, I don't know. So that goes right into what we're experiencing and what you just described and what Matt described with these AI models currently. They won't say, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's, and sometimes I felt like
second year law students. So.
Well, right. And again, I put myself there too, when I was at that point, but I would like to think I wasn't that way, but I guarantee I was. But it was, I think it shows a lot of confidence to say, I don't know. And a chatbot's just not going to do that. But with the amount of confidence that it gives the answers with, that's where it leads to problems. It leads to bad outcomes for clients, because they're now relying on this very confident robot to give them the right answer.
And Mike, you were sharing when you were going too fast for the cell connection to keep up with you, that we were seeing inbound plans that had real problems in it, that were decisions that were made in the software, and our human review was catching, and we were hearing, well, ChatGPT said.
Yeah. And the example I was giving there is I was trying to put stuff in there where it was making things like, hey, what power should I have in this power of attorney? And it was adding powers. And then I would put that same power of attorney in with, all this added information just to kind of test things out a little bit. And then it would tell me that potentially this was too complicated, too restrictive. So it's like, wait a second, it's telling me to do it. Now it's telling me to scale it back. And so I think, and that goes to the point that it wanted to give an answer and wanted to give what it interpreted as a useful answer. Well, I mean, you can backseat quarterback a document all day and find something that maybe this is too complicated. Oh, maybe it's missing this. Good luck.
Right.
So good luck.
Yeah. And so then your solution to this problem is, if I understand correctly, you said your own LLM. So did you actually take an open source LLM and rent GPUs and train it? Or are you just taking an LLM, putting guardrails around the system prompt? Like what's actually happening there?
Yeah, the latter. Taking, and because it is within the tools we're currently using that we have 4 years worth of data on chat and conversations and emails on how we respond when we get these questions as humans. And so we're training it on actual human response. Number one, Encore isn't in a position, we're not acting as the client's attorney. We're not giving legal advice. And so our responses and, across tens of thousands of estate plans, when questions come to us, is to respond not with legal advice, to respond with good education and information on how to think about something and the implications of a decision. And so within that, it keeps that's one of the big guardrails that we can train on what humans have done and said, this is now you can leverage this data set to provide answers. And so that's what's exciting, for us is that, we have so much data from existing real experiences that we can just now let that data set be what informs how it would answer if you're using our chatbot.
So I want to ask, going back to the study, were there any sort of absolutely catastrophic failures from the study? Did the AI just, frankly shit the bed in any particular area is what I'd love to know.
Yes, is the short answer. Specifically, so one of the ones I remember is one of the chatbots literally just stopped answering our questions.
I believe that was the Google AI one.
Yeah, I think there was like 20 of our, around halfway, it just gave up. And I'm like, oh, wow, didn't expect that to happen. But I don't think that's the best example. There was just a couple.
Was there one about a spouse getting a prenup?
Yeah, there's stuff like that. It's the prenup stuff. We did ask a couple questions related to that. And that stuff was more just kind of trying to give advice on when you just didn't have enough information. And that was the recurring theme to me, was the trying to solve something when you clearly did not have enough information to give a good answer. It didn't ask those probing questions that either an attorney would ask or even a software would ask to kind of get to the bottom of what the person really needed to accomplish or wanted to accomplish. But then there was one related to deeds where it just flat out gave the wrong information on whether or not you could. I believe it was around transfer on death deeds, and I think it cited a couple places where you can't even do transfer on death deeds, for instance. And so it's just the laws just haven't passed there yet. But yeah, so yeah, overall, catastrophic. Yeah, it was more just, again, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah,
don't rely on it.
I'm looking at question 39, mainly because it's more relevant to me. I literally was thinking about it this week because we had a child last year. What documents need to be changed if I have another child? And I see ChatGPT with a C, Claude with an F, Perplexity with a D, and Google, I think, had already given up at this point, so also an F. Or did not finish, a little DNF on here. So yeah, I find that kind of interesting that it struggled with just some of those questions.
It's a relatively basic question. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I actually wonder, so is the solution a very well-trained model like you're talking about, Matt? For other companies, is the solution just getting really good at prompting, or like having canned prompts that just do a really good job, where you have like a 500-word prompt? I've seen this. And, we're at Knapsack, we're rolling out like a marketplace of prompts specific for financial advisors. Learn more at knapsack.ai. And so the other possible solution is you can have a human in the loop. I think you were talking about human in the loop. A 60-point checklist where you're double checking the AI answers. And I guess maybe on that last one, I just don't know if that's more efficient than just having a human do it in the first place. So yeah, I'm just curious, where do you think this will net out?
Yeah, I very much want to timestamp this conversation, because if somebody watches this conversation in 6 months, I may look like a fool, or a year. I don't know. At some point, I do believe what we're talking about will look foolish if somebody watched it and thought it was live. And so I think we get there. In one way, we know the data's there. It's just how it's put together. But until we get there, that it's a point of leverage. It's the human, it's leverage for our team. Same thing with us extracting existing estate plan documents. The ability to do that is way beyond what a human can do in the time frame that AI can extract the data we want out of an existing estate plan, and we use it for that. And we could say, hey, advisor, you could be the human to be the oversight here of what AI did. We believe advisors kind of want things hand delivered to them, and that's our approach to it, is we put the human to oversee the extraction that the AI does first level, and then we deliver a finished product from there. And so, yeah, all of this is going to get there. It's how do we leverage it along the way until we have a high level of confidence it's there.
So what are your thoughts, Matt or Mike, on, thinking about having an estate plan is one thing, right? I need to generate one. I want to make sure it's accurate. But the reality is, when it comes time to actually utilize this estate plan, sometimes these things are challenged in court or have to go through the court system. So should there be greater concerns with, hey, I saved some money on the front end, or I self-served this with AI, but now I'm having to go through probate. Now I'm having to defend something in the courts, and, ChatGPT isn't going to show up alongside me.
Right. Yeah. So and this is, we feel like we've kind of threaded this needle in a way better than anybody else. Because even when you go to people are afraid, they don't know what they don't know when you just do a straight software play, or you build your estate plan through AI only, or just through software without a human looking at it. So you got that end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is you go sit down knee to knee with your local estate planning attorney. Well, what surprises people is that in the very few circumstances where something like this does get contested, even that attorney who drafted that document, everyone thinks, oh, well, I've got this attorney who's going to stand behind it. Well, guess what? They're the first witness in that trial, if that's going to trial. They can't be both the attorney and the first witness. So even that attorney who drafted that document is not going to be played. Now, they're going to have a heck of a lot more credibility than, I'm not going to name a software, but there will be more credibility there. So I'm not going to pretend like that's not a better outcome for the client, but there is still issues, with something like that when it does get contested. And so there is going to be that benefit. Where we thread the needle is we've got the efficiencies of the software, but also that human touch with the financial advisor, with our human review on the back end, to make darn sure that we're getting the potential. We feel like we are not sacrificing any outcomes in most cases for a local attorney versus a local attorney. Now, with that said, we also kick estate plans out of our software that should absolutely go to a local attorney. And I think that's one of the big differences that we have that others don't, is we're willing to say we don't know. Yeah. Or that this client would be better served by going and sitting with a local attorney, because we truly believe that is a great client outcome. Most of the time, we're just trying to do those plans where maybe you don't need that that extra level of service that an attorney can provide.
Okay. Before we maybe pivot, because we do typically do a LinkedIn sort of article of the week and change course. I think the last question I have around this is how is platforms like yours, not EncorEstate Plans specifically, helping enable, or is it enabling, I should say, estate planning to go down market, to have more people take advantage of estate plans?
It has never been easier to get a high quality estate plan done. Just with the providers that are out there. I mean, we've looked at all their documents just when it's, people have sent them to us for a summary and stuff like that. And it's in the right circumstances. It is, we used the word democratize earlier. It really is. you can get an awesome estate plan with, in a lot of circumstances without having to go to a local attorney.
Yeah.
But you got to have that. You have to have the help of someone who's going to know how to ask the right questions so you can get the necessary information to do it. And the person or company that's going to help you follow through and actually put assets into that trust.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Speaking of handing off or following through, I think this could bring us nicely to our LinkedIn topic of the week. And I'll let Mark take it from here, but maybe handing off what is not quality work to someone else because of how it was generated in the first place. So
Absolutely.
Mark, yeah.
So hopefully you can see my screen. So we usually do Best of LinkedIn, where we just talk about, things that have been happening in the world and, through a LinkedIn post, and we give our take. So something interesting happened this week, and that's that Harvard actually released a study about work slop. Work slop is really actually something that's been around for a while, even before AI. People basically not putting effort in to an email and just forwarding along, or just, doing a shoddy job on something and forwarding along. And it basically pushes the obligation to go through it onto someone downstream, right? And so it also pollutes the well a little bit, because obviously these days, whatever information is created is then used as part of the corpus for what you're searching going forwards. And so if someone spreads disinformation, it's a problem, a bit like you're saying, James, the bias to not answer wrong, and better just to say you don't know. So I thought this was actually really interesting. And I think interesting, especially in the context of the study that you were talking about, but also interesting in the context of using AI for emails. So, this is a post, but I actually reflects my personal experience as well. Someone was saying on a plane, they had, they were in a middle seat. Person on one side was basically using AI to draft an email to their boss, difficult email to their boss for like 30 minutes. And the other person was loading their entire chat history with their boyfriend into their ChatGPT and asking, like, what's going on with my relationship? And he's like, yeah, this is the world we live in today. Like, this is how people are spending their time on the plane. No one's watching the in-flight movie anymore, right? But I think actually, like, that first example of like using AI to write an email, I think a lot of people do it, right? But then, of course, if you just pass it off directly and copy and paste and don't think about it, it's a problem. But at the same time, I would argue, and James and I were talking about this, like feeding the context from a meeting notes and from your transcripts and your email into to help draft a follow-up email is amazingly powerful and could do a really good job. And so I'm just curious what you guys think. Is this a big problem? Is this a temporary problem? Is this basically what you're talking about in your study?
My son had a real problem when he used ChatGPT to break up with his girlfriend, and she figured out.
I'm sure he's going to love hearing about it on a podcast.
That's not work slop. That's life slop.
Yeah, exactly.
Thankfully, we're not breaking into the top 10 anytime soon.
Have they already broken up? I hope she doesn't hear about it.
Yes, that happened recently, and the shortcut he took cost him a lot of time. To your point of the study, that if he had just done it well the first time, he could have saved some of how that came back. Maybe came back on him. So no doubt that if we're lazy, and AI is a crutch for the lazy, it's not a way to get where we want to go if we care about our career, and care about the effect of coming through for the people, our customers, our coworkers. And so, but it's enabling the lazy for now, but those lazy are not going to have jobs, are going to be the first out when it catches up.
My thoughts are there's three kind of contributors to this. So one is lazy, hands down. And lazy could even be part of the second, which is just, I don't have enough understanding how to properly prompt or give context. And therefore I'm getting slop, right? I'm not asking the right things. I'm not giving the model enough information. I'm not attaching enough documents, context, what have you. And the third kind of related to that as well, which is we're still at a point where we're still dealing with data in silos. Like, yes, these models are trained on a large amount of information, but when you're asking it to, break up with your girlfriend, it doesn't have a lot of your history. And as kind of silly as that might sound as an example, it actually is a really good illustration. It doesn't really know what happened in your relationship. So how is it going to effectively be able to communicate at that point. And if we think back to, advisors and wealth management firms, they're still dealing with the same problems across their entire tech stack when they're trying to utilize AI.
Yeah, so the lesson is to record everything happening in your relationship so you can use AI better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Better context, yeah.
Get there.
Wasn't there, Mark, wasn't there a guy, this is going back quite a few years, but wasn't there a guy who got quite famous in like the mid-2000s in San Francisco for recording his life 24/7? I actually remember seeing him at a party like on a rooftop when I was in San Francisco.
I do remember this. There was a device where you can basically take a photo every 10 seconds, and he had this on, and it basically would record his life, completely all the time. And it was wild that, someone was willing to do that. And he basically never turned it off, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, I think it's not that far from these AI pins. People are talking about OpenAI coming out with a pin. Limitless has a pin. There are other pins out there already.
I just bought a pin, the right, Claude. I got the Claude.
There we go. Coming. So it's the audio version of that. And I think it's not that far off.
Well, and that leads to a estate planning question. What happens with that asset once we're gone? Do we want our great-great-grandkids interviewing us and having a conversation with us? Do we want that out in the world? That's now becoming an estate plan implication on what we do with that asset. What do we want our digital image in the going forward after we're no longer here?
That's actually a really good question. I actually learned a lot from a previous interview you did, Matt, with Jason Pierre. I would recommend everyone listen to that. I first learned that if you hate your kids in California, make a will. I did not know that. So that's a great line. And then, the second thing I learned is, that there's just a lot of complexity in some of these new types of assets. So what does actually happen with, when I pass away, my photos and, all my digital assets, if I don't say anything about them, who has the right to them? Or is it just whatever I tell Apple?
That's a great question.
Is it just my legacy contact that I put on Apple and that's it?
So I'm gonna give you.
It depends.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm asking ChatGPT while I'm asking you.
So nowadays, with a well-constructed estate plan, there's going to be references to digital assets in there. And so, but I'm trying not to act naive. We all get paid to worry when we have no reason to worry. And so, yes, Apple Legacy Contact is a great thing. But there's a lot of these, like Coinbase and other places, you can't even put those into your trust at this point. A little bit odd that it's a little bit behind the times for something that's so cutting edge. And maybe that's changed in the last couple of months, but the last I checked, you couldn't. But yeah, just making sure that you have references to digital assets and who's going to get it. But the thing is, when you do that in your power of attorney, for instance, that's only valid while you're alive. And now it's going to go to your will. And so we do have references to digital assets, but then you have to get someone at one of these companies to accept that. That's going to take more than a wink and a smile.
Mike, hypothetically, with my estate plan, could I have a trustee be responsible for deleting my browser history?
I think we all need one of those, right?
And potentially now my AI chat history.
That's right. No, and that would be, we all need that person. And that's not going to be something you ever want to put in writing, though. That's going to be the one
great startup idea. It should be linked to your Apple Watch. Like if your heartbeat stops going, it automatically deletes everything.
Perfect.
That's kind of that's what you need. You need that sort of self-destruct button. Here's the things I want to keep. Everything else gets nuked. That's it. It's gone.
That's amazing. No, but yeah,
someone will build it.
It is evolving at this point with what to do with the digital assets and how they get and how they get administered at death. Facebook, you kind of see some memorial accounts now if you're able to prove those types of things, and so that's people are working towards it, but it's definitely developing.
All right. Well, I think we're reaching the end here. I'm going to give you guys like two final quick questions before we close things out. What is one thing AI will never be able to do in your space?
Go ahead, Matt.
I don't have an answer. Take this one, Matt.
Yeah, I have to be very, very cautious with this. It's just setting me up to look stupid. I'm like, remember you said this is my kids are gonna laugh at me. When they hear what I said about it.
Yeah,
let's modify it. Maybe something it really can't do right now.
So it's the human connection. I think no matter how good AI gets on these types of things, there's a connection that you have with your financial planner, with your estate planner that, I mean, there's just not going to, I think 15 years ago, I kept hearing about robo-advisors. Now that was going to take every financial advisor and put them out of business. Well, they're still here. And I think that people will always want to speak to a human. Our AI chatbot gave a perfect response today to an advisor. And I'm going to read you the answer or read you what she wrote after that. So it gave the perfect response. She said, "Please connect me to a live person, human here." And we confirmed her was right. And she wrote, "Okay, cool. I just want to be 100% sure that there wasn't anything else. And I didn't want to just rely on the AI bot with a smiley face." That is that will never be replaced.
The human
until
connection.
Until we get comfortable, somebody's there to hand you a Kleenex when you're contemplating your demise and the dynamics with your children and how that may play out. And yes, could we have robots that we are that level of sensitive with? I'm not going to say no, but it's not our generation, not the generations that have lived enough life. Maybe my kids are okay with a relationship with a robot someday that can emote, but until AI can emote and we trust that, that's the element.
Even a more basic thing, the advisor has to, in many cases, advise you to get an estate plan.
Yeah. Exactly.
So somebody might need to tell you you're in a position where you need an estate plan in the first place. And then, you can go to ChatGPT, not Gemini, apparently, and get some help with that estate plan.
Yeah. I mean, I think if an AI is advising you to get an estate plan and it knows your health history, that might be a little scary for people, right? Like, what do you know that I don't know? So I think that human connection is actually super important. And I also wonder if, ultimately the human authenticity is just going to be at a higher premium once people are more into, once they use AI more, a bit like you're just talking about, Mike. Ultimately, you start seeking it out. You seek out the authenticity because it's more rare, which I think might happen.
Yeah, well, totally agree.
Want to thank you guys for coming on the podcast with us this week. Really enjoyed the conversation. A quick recap. It was the first time we addressed mortality, as Mark pointed out. We then had a daring participant in our podcast join from his race car. We had some technical issues in the middle, and we learned that Google just really doesn't care about your estate plan and is going to just give up on you halfway through, and you should probably just work with an advisor or EncorEstate Plans. So
thanks for joining us, guys. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Mark, James, thanks guys for having us on. This is a great conversation.